Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajikacharya Ashtottara Shadashishman His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Vamana Deva ki Jai Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki Jai All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru Chikaranga. So today is the appearance day of Srila Jiva Goswami and also Vamana Deva. So we'll just start by reading and discussing Jiva Goswami. Wow, this is really weird. I'm not seeing his name here. Yeah. Jagadish Pandit, Jagannath Das Babaji, Janavi Mata, Jayadev Goswami. That's... Huh? Well, there's no more J's. There's another book. Maybe there's another book in the audio. Maybe you could. All right. I think we'll check the other book. Oh, okay. It's here. Sorry. It's not in the list, but it's in the book. Anyways, I guess it's a mistake. Om Jnanativedandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Militamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitivachalam Pangam Langa Tegidim Yakripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurundanam Vancha Kapadribishta Kripa Sindhabevicha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gauda Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay. Appearing as the nephew of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, Srila Jiva Goswami displayed all the charming features of a Mahapurush, divine person. He had lotus eyes, a high nose and forehead, broad chest, long arms, and a radiant golden body. In his boyhood, he made a deity of Krishna Balaram. Expressing his pure devotion, he would often cry while worshipping them. After offering clothes, chandan, flowers, ornaments, and tasty sweets to Krishna Balaram, he would take some and give Mahaprasadam to his playmates. From the beginning, Jiva showed his kindness to other jivas, living entities. Jiva was so much attached to Krishna Balaram that at bedtime he would embrace his deities and fall asleep. His parents thought he was only playing, but the villagers rejoiced to see Jiva's love for Krishna Balaram. In school, he quickly mastered Sanskrit grammar, poetry, logic, philosophy. Srimad Bhagavatam gave life to his life. Krishna Katha filled him with happiness. No one dared to speak to him about anything but Krishna. He toured Navadvip Dham with Sri Nityananda Prabhu, studied Sanskrit in Benares, and then resided in Vrindavan. After humbly serving Sri Rupa Goswami by washing his feet, preparing his manuscripts, and editing his books, he received Diksha. Once the aging Vaishnava Vallabhacharya gave critical advice to Sri Rupa Goswami on his writing. Although much younger than the Venerable Vallabha, Sri Jiva brazenly spoke in defense of his guru. Sri Rupa Goswami scolded Sri Jiva, telling him to leave Vrindavan. Living in an abandoned crocodile hole in Nanda Ghat, 45 minutes from Sri Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir. Sri Jiva Goswami began fasting. He subsisted on wheat flour, which he baked, mixed with Yamuna water. Seeing his strict self-denial, Sanatana Goswami brought him back to the service of Sri Rupa Goswami. Srila Prabhupada once commented on this guru-disciple pastime. This is Prabhupada. Sri Rupa Goswami cast out Jiva Goswami to teach us, the devotees of today, a lesson. It was not done to teach or punish Sri Jiva Goswami, who is a perfectly liberated eternal associate of Lord Krishna. Rupa Goswami sent Jiva Goswami out of Vrindavan to teach all jivas what he wrote in Upadeshamrita. Vacho Vegam Manasa Kroda Vegam Jiva Vegam. At all times, a devotee should control his tongue, his speech, and always remain humble. Srinadapi Sunichina. This is continuation of the biography. After the disappearance of Sri Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, Sri Jiva Goswami became the Gaudiya Sampradaya Acharya to guide all Vaishnavas in Navadvip, Vrindavan, and Jagannath Puri. Although he was the undisputed leader, he always acted as a humble servant of all the jivas. Whenever Bengali Vaishnavas visited Vrindavan, he would lovingly receive them, arrange for prasadam in comfortable rooms, and even guide them on Vraj Mandal Parikrama. So this is a good or a perfect example of Jiva Goswami. When the Bengali Vaishnavas would visit Vrindavan, he would, it says, lovingly receive them and arrange for prasadam in comfortable rooms. So it wasn't just like, okay, there's some cold rice and dal, or there's one devotee from India, of course, in traditional culture. Like there's this devotee, one of my friends, he lives in Calcutta, and anyways, he came to America, and he was kind of, he found it amusing. He wasn't offended, but I visited his house, and many people visit his house because he lives right near to the airport, and he likes to help out and host people and all that. So, he'll pick you up, he'll take you. There'll be he'll arrange a nice prasadam, even if it's really late at night. He's actually a disciple of Tamal Krishna Goswami. His name's Agabid Prabhu. He was actually one of the ones in the car. And yeah, I met him. He's close to my spiritual master, so he was once my spiritual master. I met him, but he's a really nice devotee. And so he makes all these arrangements, and it's not like just like when you arrive, but every day, it takes you around Calcutta, different places. So, but he was saying one time he came to America, and again, he wasn't offended, he just found it amusing. But devotees, he was staying with some devotees, and they just said, "Yeah, help yourself. The fridge is there. Work it out." So quite the difference. Yeah. So Jiva Goswami's teaching here that very lovingly all the Vaishnavas receive them, arrange for prasadam, comfortable rooms, and so that's an important thing to do. And it wasn't that he was just like he wasn't just. It wasn't like, oh, this was only a protocol when a guru came by or something like this. It was all the Vaishnavas he would do this to. So. Yeah, my spiritual master, when he came down here one time, he brought some of my god sisters and god brothers, and they were staying in the lounge, and he walked in and inspected to make sure everything was okay. So. All right. A super excellent Sanskrit scholar, Srila Jiva Goswami would compose Sanskrit verses in his mind and write them down without changing anything. Try to do that. Write them down means he used a metal stylus to permanently etch them in palm leaves. This inscription method left no room for erasing, editing, rewriting, or running a spell check. Yet each verse was a priceless gem of perfect meter, rhythm, poetry, and meaning. Maybe we'll ask Dravida Prabhu for some. He was the greatest philosopher in all of Indian history. Contemporary Sanskritists call him the greatest scholar who ever lived. Srila Jiva Goswami was the youngest but most prolific writer among the Goswamis. He wrote an astounding 500,000 Sanskrit verses, about 25 books. His books prove that Sri Chaitanya's philosophy gives the essence of Vedic wisdom and the perfection of religion. Gopal Champu, Sat Sandarbhas, and Hari Nam Vaikarna are three of his most famous works. The Sandarbhas, I think Dravida Prabhu is going to share something from Gopal Champu. The Sandarbhas firmly established the transcendental truths of Srimad Bhagavatam. They also confirm that Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the cause of everything and the source of all avatars. Anyone who faithfully reads these books will become a devotee of Krishna. Satyanarayan Das, a Gaudiya Vaishnava Sanskrit scholar who is presently translating the Sandarbhas into English for ISKCON BBT, I guess that never followed through, but we have Gopi Pranadana Prabhus, gives us explanation of Jiva Goswami's name. Actually, Srila Jiva Goswami's name, Jiva, is very interesting when considered in light of the Bhagavat verse, which there's not a, it says, Ahastani Sahastanam Apadani Chatushpadam. It doesn't have a number where that's from. Oh, okay, this is a famous, yeah. Any animals without hands are food for those with hands. Those without feet are food for the four-legged. Everyone, Jiva, and living entity, is food for another. Another meaning of Jiva is one who gives life to others. So the spiritual knowledge given by Jiva Goswami in his 25 books give life to all the devotees. Another name of Jiva is Jivaka, one who makes the Jivas emit ecstatic sounds. he said another name of Jiva is Jivaka, which means one who makes the Jivas emit ecstatic sounds. Okay. Sri Jiva Goswami did this by supplying the esoteric meaning of the Srimad Bhagavatam through his Bhagavad commentaries in the Satsandarbhas. One who expands the nature of the Jiva, his relationship with the Lord, the process to achieve the goal and the ultimate purpose of life is Jivaka or Jiva. All right, so there's one last paragraph here. The following quote comes from Sri Jiva Goswami's Nectarian Gopal Champa, which describes the playful Vrindavan pastimes of Radha Damodar. From Govardhan Hill, a large form of Govardhan manifested. All the Vrajvasis, along with Krishna himself, then offered obeisances to that towering form. As Sri Krishna stood by with folded hands, that great personality Govardhan bellowed, "I shall eat all your offerings." He ate and drank water by emptying all the kunds around the hill. It's quite thirsty. It's quite thirsty. While eating all the preparations made by the Vrajvasis with his right hand, he snapped the fingers on his left hand. The cowherd men ran out of the way when Govardhan stretched out his hands to take more and called out. Yeah. What do you call it? He called it out 3 times. Give me more, give me more. Yeah. Bring more, bring more, bring more. At the request of Acharya Rani, Janavi Devi Thakurani, Srila Jiva Goswami had Srinivasacharya, I guess that was it, there, Anior. Narottam Das Thakur, Shamananda Prabhu take the Goswami's writings from Vrindavan to Bengal. So first it was from Janava Devi, her request, and then that went to Jiva Goswami, and then Srila Jiva Goswami had Srinivasacharya, Narottam Das Thakur, and Shamananda Prabhu take the Goswami's writings from Vrindavan to Bengal, which is a whole adventure in itself. They translated them into Bengali and distributed them throughout Bengal and Orissa. They also preached extensively and initiated hundreds of devotees. In 1542, Srila Jiva Goswami established the worship of Sri Sri Radha Damodar in Sevakunj, Vrindavan. His samadhi stands in the temple compound. It says Srila Jiva Goswami's Vilasa Manjari and Radha Damodar's Vrindavan Leela. This is 64 Samadhi's book. All right, Jiva.
A couple of songs from the Gopal Champu. This first one is when at the end of the killing of the Dhenukasura chapter 15, Krishna and Balaram come back into and all the boys come back into the village, and the gopis, drinking the beauty of Krishna and Balaram's face, like bees drinking honey, and then they come home, and this song has Krishna and Balaram both being taken care of by Yashoda. So this is a song that's describing how she pampered them. So here's the refrain. Each song has a refrain. Now I don't know the ragas, I'm sorry, but I sussed out the meter, which is pretty amazing. Harina halina sahatapadalina rajani mukamana janani ladatamittikalitam chittakalina. After the face of night appeared, Rajani Mukam, in other words, evening, Mother Yashoda affectionately served Krishna, the conqueror of sin, and Balaram, the crusher of enemies. So Harina is Hari, and Halina, he who carries the plow, and Ripodalina, it sounds like he's ripping apart the demons, which is what it means, but the Dalina is the ripping, the ripper is the demons. And Janani Lalana means that she's performing, that she's pampering them in various ways. And so there's just 2 or 3 verses here. Here's what she did. Nirmanchana nirajana marjana badana lokana ratanam mardana madana sambastradana paschad pundaka satanam. Pundaka, put the tilak on. She performed nirmanchana. I had to do some research to find out what that was. That is the preparation for arati. Then she did a little arati for Krishna and Balaram. She washed them, wiped them down, marjana, looked at their faces, vadana lokana rachanam. Mardana, give them a massage. Mardana, full immersion. Sambastradana, dressed them in their exquisite pajamas. And then at the end, she put on the tilak. And but before she put him to bed, she fed them.
So what kind of tilak was this?
No, we wear pundraka, simply means the upward tilak.
Okay, but it isn't like tilak made out of cow.
Gorochana, yes. Gorochana is very brilliant yellow powder that's produced by boiling down cow urine. It's the most gourmet tilak.
Try it out.
Then here's what she fed. Rasachaya yojana bojana purana sudabita nirasvadanam. Agududavayuta utatambulas vadanam sukasam vadanam. You can hear the beautiful poetry. She fed them sumptuously with a delicious meal of many varieties of foods and gave them scented water to drink. Sudabita nirasvadanam. And she anointed them with the guru, gave them betel nuts, and happily conversed with them. And finally, Sukadijanam patishaya samskriti samanugyam manushayanam piyasakasangatamanusevyonakatamanak chayanam. She ordered the servants to make the arrangement for sleeping, and she very happily put them and their Gopa friends to bed. So the intimate Gopa friends were looking in the door, and she invited them in at the end and did the same services for them, and then they had a sleepover with Krishna and Balaram. Many songs.
All right, so now we'll discuss Vamana Deva. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, entitled Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations. Chapter 22, Bali Maharaj surrenders his life. And we'll start by reading the summary of the chapter. The summary of this 22nd chapter is as follows. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was pleased by the behavior of Bali Maharaj. Thus the Lord placed him on the planet Sutala, and there, after bestowing benedictions upon him, the Lord agreed to become his doorman. Bali Maharaj was extremely truthful. Being unable to keep his promise, he was very much afraid, for he knew that one who has deviated from truthfulness is insignificant in the eyes of society. An exalted person can suffer the consequences of hellish life, but he is very much afraid of being defamed for a deviation from the truth. Bali Maharaj agreed with great pleasure to accept the punishment awarded him by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bali Maharaj's dynasty there were many asuras who, because of their enmity toward Vishnu, had achieved a destination more exalted than that of many mystic yogis. Bali Maharaj specifically remembered the determination of Prahlad Maharaj in devotional service. Considering all these points, he decided to give his head in charity as the place for Vishnu's third step. Bali Maharaj also considered how great personalities give up their family relationships and material possessions to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Indeed, they sometimes even sacrifice their lives for the satisfaction of the Lord, just to become his personal servants. Accordingly, by following in the footsteps of previous acharyas and devotees, Bali Maharaj perceived himself successful. While Bali Maharaj, having been arrested by the ropes of Varuna, was offering prayers to the Lord, his grandfather Prahlad Maharaj appeared there and described how the Supreme Personality of Godhead had delivered Bali Maharaj by taking his possession in a tricky way. While Prahlad Maharaj was present, Lord Brahma and Bali's wife, Vinyavali, described the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. Since Bali Maharaj had given everything to the Lord, they prayed for his release. The Lord then described how a non-devotee's possession of wealth is a danger, whereas a devotee's opulence is a benediction from the Lord. Then, being pleased with Bali Maharaj, the Supreme Lord offered his disc to protect Bali Maharaj and promised to remain with him. So, Bali Maharaj, who is a most important personality in this pastime, he is what do you say? There's this 9 Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padas Sevanam. Yeah, Atma Nivedanam. He's the perfect example. Yeah, he's the perfect exemplar of Atma Nivedanam, which is complete surrender. And that Vamana Deva, appearing as a dwarf boy, Brahmin boy, was asking for some charity. And then at that particular point, to Bali Maharaj, and Bali Maharaj was in charge of the whole universe, conquered it. So first Vamana Deva said something very interesting. He said, "Oh, I just need 3 steps. All I need is 3 steps." And then Bali Maharaj said, "I could give you so much, you just want 3 steps." And then Vamana Deva said that if I cannot be satisfied with just 3 steps alone, then I won't be satisfied with the whole, with everything, with anything. So that's a good instruction. There's actually a in a commentary of the Bhagavad-Gita by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. There's he quotes this very interesting verse. I don't exactly remember where it is, but it's in it's in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad-Gita commentary. And he says that if a man has all the wealth in the world, all the grains in the world, all the women in the world, still he won't be satisfied, because this insatiable desire, or lust, kama, won't be satisfied. So yeah, Bali Maharaj, he agreed, and then first step, he covered this world, right? Earthly planet, and then he covered the universe, and then from there the Ganges came. So then Vamana Deva said, "Well, where do you want me to put my 3rd step? You said I could have 3 steps." And then Bali Maharaj said, "You put it on my head." So he surrendered. That was his surrender. He surrendered everything. So, of course, many people hear this pastime, and practically, you could say, so many Hindus or followers of how do you define a Hindu? But people who know about the incarnations, and they know about Vamana Deva, they know Matsya, Kurma, they know all these things. Growing up, they hear about it. So, and what do they understand about it? Of course, we can't just make a sweeping statement, but a lot of the times people think, "Oh, what a cute story! Isn't that cute? He appears as a Brahmin boy and asks for some charity, and then he, 1 step, 2 step, and where am I going to put my last step? Okay, on my head." They think it's like just some. They may think it's just some cute story or something, some kind of amusing. Which, of course, it is. It is amusing, supremely amusing, or attractive. But it's actually a serious pastime. It's very serious that Bali Maharaj surrendered everything, and we are also supposed to be like following in the footsteps of Bali Maharaj, surrendering everything to Krishna. And of course, depending on our particular situation in life, our stage in life, that surrender may look different. Means if you're a brahmachari, usually, I think you could say that safely in all cases, you don't have a house, so it doesn't like you have to surrender your house to Krishna. But you have other things that need to be surrendered to Krishna or utilized in Krishna's service. And if you do have a house or whatever, other things, then that also has to be engaged like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, I surrender everything, house and family, everything. Manasa Deho, right? Tomorrow his appearance day. So Bali Maharaj, it's quite an amazing feat that he did. He surrendered just everything, literally. He had a lot to surrender. And, sometimes people, speak for myself, or people in general, they have a hard time just surrendering their little body. And actually it's little compared to this, so many things, right? This huge universe. As, right, Prabhupada told Tamal Krishna Goswami when he became the temple commander of L.A., he was, how do I not become proud by this position? And he said, well, I think Prabhupada started at Mahavishnu, right? He said there's so many universes emanating, and one of those universes, we're in one of those universes, and then there's in that universe there's so many planets, and one of those planets is Earth, and then on Earth there's so many continents, and one of those continents is America, and then America there's so many cities, so many states, and then one of those states, California, so many cities, Los Angeles, so many streets, La Cienega, and then on La Cienega there's so many buildings, and in one of those buildings there's a Hare Krishna temple, and in that Hare Krishna temple there's so many rooms, and in one of those rooms there's Tamal Krishna Das, and he's thinking himself very important. So it's very, the living entity by nature is actually, right, tiny, right? Infinitesimal, tiny. But yeah, people find it hard time, and just surrendering little body, little mind to Krishna. Giving up little desires. So we could take some courage in Bali Maharaj's this pastime, that he literally had so much to surrender. It's not that Vamana Deva said, okay, surrender your house, or surrender your car, or, right, surrender your position. Something. He just said, he asked for everything, and Bali Maharaj gave it to him. So it's a great, perfect example. I was talking to one of my godbrothers recently, and his name's Balabhadra, but he was, we were discussing how people, they think that, okay, well, I'm not very advanced in Krishna consciousness, I'm not very Krishna conscious, so I might as well kind of give up, or kind of slacken kind of slack off. But he was making the point, it's a cultivation. It's a cultivation. It's not that, okay, overnight that one becomes, it could happen in a moment, but generally it's rare cases. So it's a cultivation. It takes time, like cultivating a garden. It takes time. It doesn't just automatically produce. Of course, if you're dealing with like Krishna's garden, like we're hearing recently of, the pearls and things like that. So he was saying how he heard one time somebody say, I don't do yoga because I'm not flexible. I don't do yoga because I'm not flexible. But it's like, okay, well, yoga is meant to make you flexible. So, or part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, to become detached. Oh, well, I can't practice Krishna consciousness because I'm not detached. Well, Krishna consciousness helps us become detached. It will bring us to that level. So we cultivate it. So it's not very logical conclusion. So of course there's a lot to say, and but we did try to cover Jiva Goswami, of course, just in that short amount of time. You could give, classes and classes and classes and classes and classes about Jiva Goswami and Vamana Deva. So this is a very short span to try to glorify them, but But one thing is, the last thing is that in this summary that we read, and then in chapter 16 and 17, yes, there's a description of, I believe it's 16 and 17, but there's a description of, because they're talking about material opulence and how a non-devotee it's bewildering. And for a devotee, it could be bewildering, but not necessarily. And but sometimes devotee or Krishna will take away those opulences. He'll take away that opulence to humble the devotee and to, you could say, help wake them up from their illusion. And of course, Srila Prabhupada, he and his humility and his understanding and his realization, he said that, for example, astrologer said that he was going to be one of the, or if not the most wealthy person in India. Yeah, another Birla. Very wealthy. So, which Prabhupada said about that family, said no one could measure their wealth. So he was predicted by astrologer to have wealth like that. So, but as he narrates it, Krishna just took everything away. His idea, he was going to, make a lot of money, then come to America, spread Krishna consciousness, but Krishna literally took everything away. And he came to America with practically nothing. But later, of course, Krishna gave Prabhupada so many wealth and resources to spread Krishna consciousness. So yeah, but we see that even on an individual level, Krishna may do that, but even collectively, Krishna may do that. He may arrange some disaster, actually. And because at that point, people will wake up. It's a wake-up call. Like if everybody's completely in illusion and they're just going on with their material opulence, if a whole society is just completely shaken up by something like we're experiencing now, then it could be a bit of a wake-up call. Of course, even then, some people are really determined to be asleep, or pretending to be asleep. They don't want to wake up. So sometimes Krishna may arrange that as well. But as we heard yesterday by Rajendranath Prabhu, said he was saying how, right, Indra, Bali Maharaj will become Indra. Yeah, will become Indra, which is the most materially opulent material position, right? Practically. So, so whatever we have, whether we have a lot of wealth, or we have a little bit of wealth, or we have no wealth, whatever we have, the point is to engage it and surrender it. And of course, again, this is a cultivation process. It's not, we may not be able to do that immediately, but we should try to cultivate that, develop our flexibility. So does anybody have any comments or questions? Yes.
Are you trying to tell me that COVID is God's mercy to wake us up?
Uh-oh.
I mean, that's like the...
Well, I'm thinking.
No, he's thinking how to answer.
I'm thinking. Yeah, I'm thinking how to. Well, it's like people, they wonder, okay, well, why are we suffering? In the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says that the suffering that we're experiencing is actually, that verse, it's actually due to our own doings. It's not, it's due to our own mistakes in doing. So, like Prabhupada would say about eating of meat, for example. It said that people are slaughtering like so many animals. It's actually just, it's inconceivable how many animals are being slaughtered. And of course, Mr. Paul McCartney, he said that, which we used in our Higher Taste book, if all of the slaughterhouses had glass walls, everyone would be vegetarian. So there's so much violence going on, and even these big movements, these big altruistic movements, and save nature, Greenpeace, and so many different movements are out there, but so many of them are just they're fighting for minority ethnic groups, they're fighting for animals, they're fighting for nature. And in the process to their march to the parade, whatever the parade they made, they stop at McDonald's, eat meat. So it's so there has to be some reaction for that, because it's not right. It's not in line. It's not in harmony with reality. It's completely immoral and wrong. Immoral. So so Prabhupada said it in the example of like collective wars. There's a big bunch of meat eaters and slaughterhouses. So okay, then abortions and so many things. Nature, or it happens. They all get together and they fight and they kill each other off. So with this pandemic that is going on, it is also a reaction for at least a lot of people have faith in that and accept that, where it's originating from, of the eating of meat. And so of course, a lot of the times, for people, this is like a hard pill to swallow, that, oh, what do you mean that, oh, all of my suffering is just coming from me, and, collectively us being, fools and rascals and really just, breaking the laws of God. And yeah, that's just, if we, if there's there's a way everything's set up, and there's reality, and there's laws, and there's ways to be in harmony with it. Just like this morning, we're gonna by cannibalize great endeavor and Vaishnav qualities and seva and all that. He's making a nice breakfast for everybody. He's been doing for years. I don't know how many years now, but it's been quite over 10 years. So, and he hardly misses a weekend. So that's what we're having for breakfast. I'm sure everybody suspected that. Yeah, it's a nice Dwadashi, Vamana Dwadashi. Now we're having that for breakfast. We're not having, we're not taking the trash bags, the black trash bags in the kitchen, and put them in a ball and frying them up as pakoras and trying to eat that. If we try to do that, we're going to have to be rushed off to Scripps or local hospital, because it's not in line with the body. It's not in line with nature. So just as there's like laws for the body needs water, the body needs certain types of food. So many things. So nature. So if people break the laws, and there's going to be a reaction. So.
There it is. The answer is yes. Thank you, Bhagavad.
All right, thank you. So, does anybody have any other questions or comments?
Thank you for a wonderful class. And it's stated that the Lord especially wanted to have Bali Maharaj glorified because of two qualities: his extreme tolerance and determination. There's a
manifestation of his determination.
Because it appeared as if he had nothing left to give. The Lord assumed the universal form and took everything. But here comes his grandfather, and he's ashamed on Prahlad Maharaj. I mean, that's when he really became. Yeah, he overcame so many. That's the determination. Yeah, that's a nice purport you're mentioning. His guru told him not to do it. His friends and his relatives thought it was a horrible idea to give everything to Vishnu.
You're not thinking about him, but thinking about themselves.
Yeah, and there's a few other ways in which it was all stacked against him, but he was determined to give to Balarama. And there's a nice purport where it said, if to enjoy a humor with his devotee, he came as the brahmachari Brahmin, the little boy.
Yeah.
If he had come as Vishnu, Bali Maharaj would have given him everything anyway, because he'd received the mercy of Prahlad and he was a pure Vaishnava.
Yeah.
But to enjoy a little humor, then he had that reciprocation with him, and quote unquote tricked him.
Yeah.
So the Lord enjoyed it. There was one other point on the COVID thing. I thought of this when I was reading the 8th canto yesterday. Kashyapa Muni came back, and Aditi was totally forlorn. Her son, Indra, and all the devas, her children had been kicked out, and they're homeless. It's bad.
Homeless demigods, right?
Yeah, wandering aimlessly in disguise.
Even the demigods become homeless.
Yeah, pushing their shopping carts. So anyway, he had been absorbed in his meditation. That was the way to, and he didn't even have a clue that the demons had come up from the hellish planets and had taken over the entire universe. He said, "What's wrong? Did you avoid performing dharma or whatever?" And then she told him. He said, "Oh, okay. Well, first he comments, you're so attached to your children. Just see the potency of the illusory energy. But because you are, I'll go ahead and tell you how to worship the Supreme Lord, and He can put everything right."
Yeah.
And the smallest little thing, you were talking about frying up black plastic bags, and making pakoras.
Yeah.
So you remember that wonderful cake that Bhakti Jamal made for us on, what was the last? Radhasmi. It was a fantastic cake, thick, huge amount of butter frosting and everything. So I took it home. A couple of days, I had a piece left after a couple of days, and I put it in a little skillet to warm it up, and butter would fry it up. Something I like, butter, crispy, toasty kind of thing. Okay, so then, so when I cooked it, there was red coloring on the frosting, and that turned to like a plastic in the frying pan. It's the chemicals. We were joking about the red chemicals, you remember? Oh, there's no bugs in this one, we're good. But when heat was added to it, I'm just letting you know, it became a plastic.
Let Jamal know.
Yeah.
Ari, it isn't flowing with the laws of nature, as you were saying.
Yeah. All right. Burritos ki jai. Vamana Deva ki jai. Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Bali Maharaj ki jai. Prahlad Maharaj. Keep on going. Vijay Prabhu ki jai.